You've been learning English for years. You know the grammar, you have the vocabulary, but every time you need to speak, you hesitate, stumble, or even stay silent. Why does this happen? Have you ever asked yourself if maybe you're missing something? The truth is, you're not lacking knowledge. You're only missing one crucial thing: the right kind of practice. And today, you're going to discover a method that's incredibly simple, yet powerfully effective, a method that can help you break the silence. It's called listen and repeat. It might sound basic, but this is exactly how native children naturally learn to speak their own language. And you can do the same, starting right now. Welcome to Kunzy Podcast English, where English becomes familiar, understandable, and truly inspiring. This is the place where you don't just study English, you live it. You practice it. You make it a part of your everyday life. Get ready, because right after this, we'll listen together, repeat together, and step by step, you'll turn your voice into a powerful tool to communicate in English. Let's go. Why you still can't speak English even after years of studying. Have you ever found yourself in this situation? A foreigner walks up to you and says something simple in English. You understand what they're asking, but your mouth just freezes. Your mind goes blank. You can hear every word clearly. You know what it means, but you can't respond. All you can do is smile awkwardly, nod, and hope they get the message. It feels frustrating, doesn't it? You've spent years learning English. You know vocabulary. You've studied grammar. Maybe you even got high scores on English tests. Yet when it comes to speaking, it's like you're stuck. If this sounds like you, you're not alone. Millions of English learners are facing the exact same problem. But here's the truth. The real reason you can't speak English isn't because you're not smart enough or you lack talent. The real issue is this: you've been learning English the wrong way. From the very beginning, you were taught to memorize, not to use. You studied grammar, did reading comprehension, finished worksheets, but rarely practiced speaking. You know the word apple, but you don't know how to pronounce the short sound like a native. You know the structure, I would like to, but when you're in front of a real person, your mind goes blank. And that's the sad part. English isn't something you study and memorize. It's a skill just like cooking, riding a bike, or swimming. You could read 100 books about swimming, but if someone throws you into the water, you'll still sink if you've never practiced. The same goes for English. You can't speak it just by learning theory. You have to practice speaking, make mistakes, correct them, speak again, and keep repeating. We are trying to learn how to speak by never speaking. That's the biggest contradiction in how English is taught today. You understand English, but you can't use it. You think in Vietnamese, try to translate it into English in your head, then hesitate out of fear of making mistakes. And so you stay silent. That cycle repeats itself. And over time, your confidence fades. The truth is, you don't lack knowledge. You lack the right kind of practice. You need to speak English the way a child learns to speak, without fear of being wrong, without worrying about grammar, without being afraid of what others think. You need to learn in a way that your brain naturally absorbs language by listening, repeating, and responding. And you'll be amazed at how quickly English shifts from something you study to something that becomes a part of you. In the next part, I'll show you how to practice speaking English like a child in a simple, natural, and surprisingly effective way. Don't miss it, because this could be the turning point in your English learning journey. The lesson from children. The forgotten way adults use to learn languages. Have you ever stopped and truly observed how a child learns a language? No textbooks, no verb conjugation charts, no one explaining why a sentence is right or wrong. They just learn, little by little, day after day. They listen to their parents. They listen to conversations around them. And one day, as if by magic, they start repeating sounds almost unconsciously. No one teaches a child to use the present continuous tense. No one tells them to memorize subject, verb, object. They simply listen, imitate, and speak. They repeat, they make mistakes, they get corrected, and they try again. Eventually, they speak fluently. What we call grammar is just a natural result of constant exposure to language. It's not the starting point. It's the destination. It's something they absorb through their ears, their eyes, and their daily experiences. They don't analyze why do becomes did, yet they still use it correctly. They don't question why go turns into went. They just say it because they've heard others say it. And amazingly, they often get it right, without ever learning a single rule. But what about us? We enter English classrooms with adult minds, with heads full of logic, with the mindset that we have to be perfect from the start. We study English by reading dry grammar theories. We believe that if we haven't mastered all 12 tenses, we shouldn't open our mouths. And so we spend months, even years, learning how to not speak. We cram grammar into our brains and forget the original goal, to communicate, to speak, to connect with the world. We treat English like history or mathematics, analyzing, memorizing, doing exercises, but we forget that language is a living thing. It needs to breathe, to be touched, to be practiced. If you only read but never listen, if you only write but never speak, then you're building a bridge you never cross. You're trying to swim by reading a book but never getting in the water. And then you wonder why you still can't swim, why you still can't speak. The difference between a child and an adult is not memory or intelligence. It's the approach. Children are not afraid to be wrong. Adults are. Children aren't embarrassed when they mispronounce words. Adults are. That fear becomes the biggest wall between you and the language. Not a lack of vocabulary, not a lack of grammar, but fear of being judged. How many times have you known exactly what you wanted to say, but stayed silent because you were afraid of making a mistake? How many times have you wanted to join a conversation but didn't feel confident enough to speak? That's what keeps you trapped in your comfort zone, a zone where nothing grows, a zone that looks like learning but is really just delay. It's time we start again, like a child. Not literally, but with the same mindset. Allow yourself to be wrong. Be okay with mispronouncing things. Start with simple sentences. Begin by listening to English every day, even if you don't understand everything. Just listen to get used to the rhythm. Repeat what you hear, even if it's only a few words. Don't worry if your sentences aren't perfect. Don't panic if you forget a word. Just speak with everything you've got. It's the real-world practice that helps you grow. When you're brave enough to make mistakes, you're ready to learn what's right. When you dare to speak, even imperfectly, you're laying the foundation for future fluency. Don't wait to be perfect before you begin. Perfection doesn't come from waiting. It comes from constant practice, from hundreds of mistakes, from awkward conversations, from moments of frustration. And then one day you'll say a sentence in English smoothly, without even thinking. And you'll smile, realizing you've made it. English is not a destination. It's a journey. one you must walk every day. You don't need to sprint. You just need to keep moving. Every word you say, every sound you hear, every sentence you attempt is progress. Learn like a child. Live in the language. Let English become part of your daily life. And soon, speaking it will feel natural and effortless. In the next part, I'll show you how to make English a daily habit, a method that requires no textbooks, no grammar drills, but still helps you grow day by day. Are you ready? You already have enough English to start. You may not believe it, but I want you just to stop for a moment and really hear this. You already have enough English to start. Yes, right now, not someday. Not after you learn 500 more words, not after you master grammar rules, but now, this very moment. Many people think that in order to speak English, you need to be fluent. You need perfect pronunciation. You need to speak smoothly, use the right grammar, and sound natural. But that belief is a trap that's been holding you back for years. The truth is completely different. To start speaking, you only need one thing. Courage. Let's be honest. You've studied for years. You know hundreds of words. You understand what others are saying. But when it's your turn to speak, you freeze. Why? Because you think you're not ready. Because you're afraid of making mistakes. Afraid of being judged. But if you keep waiting for the perfect moment, you'll never begin. Because no one starts from perfection. No one. You don't need a huge vocabulary. Even with just 50 familiar words, you can build hundreds of sentences. Just a few simple patterns are enough to start conversations and communicate with the world. But more important than knowledge is the belief that you can start from where you are. Remember how children learn to speak? They don't read books. They don't study irregular verbs. They don't memorize grammar rules. They just listen, imitate, and speak. They make hundreds of mistakes. Their pronunciation is unclear. But no one laughs at them. And because they're not afraid, they keep talking. And the more they speak, the better they get. And you have that same right. You have the right to make mistakes, the right to be imperfect, the right to speak even with a limited vocabulary. But you do not have the right to give up on your dream of speaking English just because of fear. Start with the simplest sentences. Say things like, I like music. I go to work. I eat rice. You may think those sentences are too basic, but don't underestimate them. Those simple lines are your way out of the comfort zone. They are the foundation of real communication. The more you speak, the more confident you become. The more you practice, the more fluent you'll be. But none of that will happen unless you take action. Don't get stuck in the loop of waiting. Many people spend years learning new words, watching more videos, reading more books, but never open their mouth because they think they're not ready. But that thought is the real barrier. The truth is, you are not missing anything. What you need is a strong decision, the courage to speak even when you're not perfect, to practice even when you still make mistakes, to walk even when you can't see the whole path ahead. You can start today. Talk to yourself in the mirror. Record your voice. Repeat simple conversations. Send a short voice message in English. It doesn't have to be long. It doesn't have to be perfect. Just one sentence. Then tomorrow, another one. Day by day, you'll go further than you ever thought possible. Don't wait for someone else to validate you. Don't wait to feel confident before you act. Because confidence doesn't come first. It only comes after you start. If you're hearing this now, take it as the sign you've been waiting for. You're not here by accident. This is your final reminder. You already have everything you need to begin your English speaking journey, not tomorrow, but right now. A real-life situation. When you can't react. You're standing at a famous tourist spot. All around you are sounds of laughter, signs in English, Chinese, Korean. Suddenly, a foreign traveler walks up to you. He holds out his phone, points to an address, and says, "Excuse me, do you know how to get here?" His voice is clear, easy to understand. You hear it. You understand. You know exactly where that place is. But no words come out. Your mind spirals. What should I say? Am I pronouncing it right? What if they don't understand me? What if I say it wrong? The more you think, the more you panic. Your hands feel awkward. Your throat tightens. And then, as a reflex to protect yourself, you shake your head and say, "Sorry, I don't speak English." The traveler nods politely and walks away. You stand there feeling embarrassed, defeated, as if you've just lost something important. If you've ever felt that, you are not alone. The truth is, millions of English learners around the world are stuck in the same place. They can understand English when reading, when listening to music, watching movies. But when it comes time to speak, they go silent. Why? Because they never practiced speaking. They memorized vocabulary, grammar rules, did exercises, passed tests, but they never practiced real-world speaking. They lived in classrooms and books and safe spaces where mistakes didn't matter and no one judged. But outside, in real life, they freeze. They shut down. They can't speak, not because they're bad at English, but because they never trained to speak it. English isn't a subject to study. It's a skill, and skills don't come from knowing, they come from doing. You can't learn to drive just by reading a book. You can't learn to swim without getting in the water. And you can't speak English unless you've actually spoken it out loud in real situations. The more afraid you are of making mistakes, the more silent you become. The longer you wait until you're ready, the more you delay your growth. And here's the truth. You will never feel ready unless you start. You might know 500 words, 1,000 grammar points, but if you've never practiced saying them out loud, you won't be able to put together even one full sentence. Meanwhile, someone who knows just 50 words but speaks them every day, boldly, without fear, can already connect, already communicate, already take opportunities. Silence is what holds you back. Your English isn't gone, it's just asleep, waiting for you to wake it up with action. You don't need to speak perfectly before you're allowed to speak. You just need to start. And then practice, again and again. Start small. Talk to yourself. Record your voice and listen. Practice answering basic questions. Greet foreigners if you get the chance. Don't try to say complicated things. Say what's simple. Say what's true. Because every time you dare to speak, you break the silence. Every time you face the fear, you move closer to confidence. Don't let English live only inside your head as knowledge. Let it become part of you, alive, natural, real. Because when you can use English to express your feelings, ask for directions, connect with others, tell a story, that's when you don't just know English. You live with it. If you keep waiting to be perfect, waiting to not be scared, waiting until you're good enough, then maybe you'll never speak at all. And do you know what's worse than making mistakes? Staying silent forever. Speaking is a skill. It needs practice like swimming or driving. You can't learn to swim by reading a book. Just like no one becomes a great driver by only memorizing traffic rules. If you want to swim, you have to get into the water. If you want to drive, you have to get behind the wheel. And if you want to speak English, you have to open your mouth. There are no shortcuts, no magic tricks, only practice, struggles, and daily progress. Many people study English for 5 years, 10 years, or even longer. They understand grammar. They know thousands of words, but when it comes time to speak, they go silent. Not because they're bad at it, but because they've never immersed themselves in speaking. It's like someone trying to swim without ever touching water. How could that possibly work? Speaking is a skill, and skills must be practiced every single day, like a martial artist stepping into the ring, like a pianist placing their fingers on the keys. Without practice, everything stays on paper. Speaking alone, a simple yet powerful secret. You don't need a teacher. You don't need a classroom. You don't need anyone to guide you. You just need yourself and the willingness to begin. Speaking alone is one of the most powerful ways to practice. No pressure, no judgment, no one laughing at your mistakes. Start with the little things. I'm making coffee, I see a chair, I'm writing notes. Say it out loud every day, multiple times a day. Bring English into your daily life. Stand in front of a mirror and say, I'm learning English. I'm getting better every single day. It might feel silly at first, but this is how you awaken your English thinking mind. And once your brain starts thinking in English, you stop translating. You begin to respond naturally, more fluently, more confidently. This is the beginning of a new version of you, someone who dares to speak, dares to make mistakes, and dares to grow. Reading aloud, the exercise for your mouth and your voice. Choose any English text you enjoy and start reading it aloud, not whispering, not mumbling. Read out loud with rhythm, with emotion. Let your mouth get a workout. Let your ears hear your own English voice. You don't need to understand every word. You don't need perfect pronunciation. What matters is the connection between your eyes, ears, mouth, and brain. The more you read aloud, the stronger that connection becomes. Your mouth becomes more flexible. Your sounds become clearer. Your response time becomes faster. Reading aloud isn't just pronunciation practice. It's building the foundation of speaking. Just like a pianist practicing simple tunes every day, you're building confidence one word, one sentence, one breath at a time. Recording yourself. Listen to your progress. The first time you record your voice, you might feel awkward. It might sound strange, unfamiliar, but do it anyway. Record a short segment of yourself reading in English. Then listen back. You'll notice things to improve. But more importantly, you'll realize you spoke. That's the first, most important step. After a week, record again. After a month, listen to your very first recording. You'll be amazed at how far you've come. The words you once mispronounced now sound clearer. The slow pace you once had now flows smoother. You are improving, day by day. Even if you don't always see it, the change is happening. Let those recordings become your personal English learning diary. Each file is a milestone, a small victory, a piece of evidence that proves you're doing something you once thought was impossible. The important truth: you don't need to be perfect to speak. We often carry an invisible burden when learning English, the obsession with being perfect. We think we must pronounce every word like a native speaker. Use flawless grammar. Speak smoothly without hesitation or mistakes. And that belief alone keeps us silent. But do you know what's ironic? Even native speakers make mistakes. They stutter. They use the wrong words. They pause, but they still speak. Because the goal of communication is not perfection. It's connection. It's about making others understand you. It's about letting your heart reach theirs. A simple sentence, spoken with broken grammar and imperfect pronunciation, but filled with honesty, is far more powerful than silence born from the fear of being wrong. Don't let fear steal your chance to express yourself. Don't wait until you feel good enough to speak. That day might never come. You don't need to sound like an American. You don't have to speak like a Brit. You just need to be you, with your own voice, with the vocabulary you already have, with the determination you're building each day. That's what makes you unique. That's what the world wants to hear. So next time you get the chance to speak English, take it. Speak, even if it's wrong, even if your voice shakes, even if you stumble. Just speak. Because every time you dare to speak your truth, you're one step closer to becoming the person you're meant to be. Try saying one sentence in English right now, even if it's just, "I'm learning English," or "I speak a little, but I'm getting better." It may sound simple, but that single sentence is the first brick in building unshakable confidence. You don't need to wait until you're good enough to speak, because the truth is, if you don't start speaking, you'll never feel ready. One small sentence can be a huge turning point. It signals to your brain that you've taken action, that you're no longer just learning to know, but daring to use the language. Each day, by simply repeating a few easy sentences, practicing with your own voice, you'll be amazed by the transformation. Don't let silence hold you back. Let each sentence guide you out of your comfort zone. This is no longer just about learning English. This is your journey of personal transformation. And it begins with a single sentence. Will you dare to speak it now? You don't need to be perfect. You don't need to be fluent. And you definitely don't need to wait until you feel ready. All you need is to start. Start with one simple sentence. Start with your real voice. Then, day by day, you'll begin to notice the change. It's not magic. It's the power of repetition, consistency, and taking action. The journey to speaking English fluently is not a race. It's a path. And that path begins today, not through textbooks, but through your own voice, spoken out loud. If you found this content helpful, don't hesitate to share it with friends who are also learning. Hit like, share, and subscribe to Kunzy Podcast English so you won't miss the next inspiring episodes. Every interaction from you is a huge motivation for us to continue walking this journey with you. Start today because you deserve to grow.